Welcome to The Truth Unplugged, the podcast where faith meets real life. I'm Nicole.
I'm Father Tim.
And I'm Father Star.
Whether you're Catholic or just curious, this is the place for honest conversations with no fluff.
No fluff at all. Lots of laughs. Grab your coffee and settle in.
And welcome to The Truth Unplugged.
Welcome back. Episode 3.
Hola.
How are we doing? Are we all alive after Father Branson was here?
Yeah.
I hang out with him quite a bit, so
I know. It's funny to me that you guys are friends.
it's to the point he knows exactly what annoys me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He loves pushing those buttons.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't he do that to everybody?
He does it to everybody. He's a troll by nature.
We played this like card game.
don't-
And
you
man,
don't-
it was so fun watching Father Branson just.
Just to give you an idea of the type of man he is, and I don't think this will ruin his reputation. It just comes with his. At the very end, I was about to actually beat Father Branson and kick him out, and he goes, "Oh, don't do that. You know what? Let me have one more turn." And then the very next time it was his turn, just wiped me out of the game.
Yeah, because he said we should team up to take out the guy that had the most points left still. And then,
Yeah.
What card game were you playing?
What was
I
it
don't
called? Star Realms?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was probably like a game on a phone that got turned into a card game.
Yeah,
Because I didn't quite figure out how to play it. I was like, if this were on my phone, I'd just be clicking random things and like, okay, that'll probably work, and that'll probably work.
It's more based off of a game called Dominion, which has its own set of rules and spawned a whole genre of games. So,
Are you a big game guy?
like board games? No.
Yeah, like any games.
I play video games
Video games.
when I have time. I don't
Okay.
play when I'm in class.
You're not a board game person?
Not particularly. No.
Interesting.
I love Ticket to Ride.
The Ticket to Ride has been our one of your one things, I think, twice.
Has it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
Is that
man,
your
I-
one thing that today?
No,
You're gonna have to
I
change?
love. Oh, I remember.
Have you
yeah.
played Ticket to Ride with him before?
Not with him. I've played it once, and forgive me, Father. I thought it was one of the most boring games I've ever played.
I
Yeah.
think it's boring if you don't play
I'm
it
pretty
with the right
competitive.
people.
I'm sure if he taught me how the strategy works in the game, I would enjoy it.
And
Like
how-
I'm trying to convince him chess is actually a fun game. So, yeah.
Let's not work after this and go play Ticket to Ride.
It's
because
fun
I
to
think
troll
it's fun.
people in Ticket to Ride. It's fun to take the Atlanta
Oh,
Nashville.
you are the worst.
Like first move, regardless of whether you need to go through Atlanta or Nashville, because that creates so much havoc for the people that do.
Teresa got some money for her birthday, so we went to the store and she decided to buy a board game, and I was like, "Oh, it's starting so young."
Yeah,
so
but how is
young.
she going to be able to play a board game? Is it like Candyland?
Candyland.
Okay. Or Mousetrap.
But there's also a game called Yeti and My Spaghetti, which they both love, where you have plastic noodles and it's.
What about Chutes and Ladders?
We don't have that one yet. I think that we're still trying to teach them how to lose, so I'm not ready for.
Oh, let me play with
the
them. I'll
game.
teach them how to lose.
Lose gracefully instead of crying when you get the piece of candy that sends you all the way back to the beginning, you know? So we'll work our way up to Chutes and Ladders. We're not talking today on this podcast about board games. We are talking about prayer. So we know how much everyone loves talking about prayer. So we brought it back because we have Father Star, and he might have different thoughts than our previous co-host about prayer.
Sometimes I wonder if people love hearing about prayer as much as they love actually praying.
Because
Well,
prayer is hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. Actually, it's really interesting because we just studied this in the law when it comes to the Christian faithful. And the law says that people have a right to their own spirituality.
what does that mean?
It means that while there is a communal aspect of prayer, which is, I think, a higher form of prayer, everybody has a subjective understanding of how the world works and how they interact, and that's how God made them. So there are different spiritualities that actually speak to their subjective experience where they can actually approach the objective, if that makes any sense, right? So, for example, while we say contemplation is the highest form of prayer, that doesn't look the same for everybody, right? So you can have somebody raising and praising in a state of contemplation while at the same time somebody else is just sitting silently in front of the Blessed Sacrament, right? So there's a temptation of prayer to think that if you are not participating in the way that you see someone else doing it, you're actually falling short of the greater glory of God just by mere reality of your own existence, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah.
It
So,
does. Don't ignore that my face, but yes, it does. So, because I think that it's often like we go to the saints, we go to we look at the holy people in church, and we're like, okay, that's how you pray. So my prayer isn't good enough, and I should be imitating what you're doing, and that's not really correct.
Yeah, so you do have the saints that say you should be kneeling in silence and all of that. Then you have someone like St. Ignatius of Loyola who says if you need to sit while you're praying, if you need to lay down while you're praying. No, seriously.
No, he did say that.
And he is one of the greatest saints when it comes to the discernment of spirits. If you want to learn how to discern, read St. Ignatius of Loyola, right? So there is a temptation to look at something that doesn't speak to your subjective experience and to say that it is insufficient or it's even elementary to your participation in the divine life, right? So I really can't stand Christian music, right? I think, well, it's subpar.
Like worship music?
Worship music. I don't call it worship music because worship is only in the context of the sacrifice of the Mass, right? So, and I get in trouble with some priests, but I call it praise music.
Yes.
Right? Because
like the fish,
Right.
104.7.
and praise.
I thought the fish went out of business.
It is done now.
Oh, it's done?
You didn't know that?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it went bankrupt.
I call it crazy praisey music.
Yeah. Well, so that's
Chris
the whole
Tomlin.
point. That's the whole point, right? We call it crazy praisey or whatever it is, but in reality, it can objectively be a higher good for somebody whose subjective experience is created in such a way that that is how they reach the divine, right? And I truly believe somebody in that state can actually reach a state of contemplation, right? And believe it or not, the pastor has an obligation to allow different expressions of spirituality in the parish, right? So if someone says, hey, I would like, and I think we need to talk about this because there are distinctions. We had a great conversation a week ago about this. If someone says, hey, I would love to have more charismatic prayer here at the parish, the pastor doesn't have true authority to say no just simply because he looks down on it, right? Now, there are other...
Not that he looks down on it.
No, I wasn't
Okay,
speaking of you. I was speaking hyperbole.
But you're also talking about outside of the context of the Mass, right?
Yes, outside of the context of the Mass.
This doesn't mean, oh, Father,
have a charismatic
Yeah.
Mass. Yeah.
Yeah. But even within the context of the liturgy, right? The law protects your ability to have your subjective approach to the liturgy. This is a reason we have so many different rites. If you've ever been to a divine liturgy, it's very different than the Latin rite.
Yes.
Or like more specifically, the Roman rite.
Yeah, if you
Right.
think our Masses are long, go to a Greek divine liturgy and, stand there.
Syro Malabar.
Well, they like scream at a door for 3 hours. That's
Yeah. So, and then you get,
I don't think it's 3 hours.
it's like,
It is a while, but
most divine liturgies for the week are an hour long. But if you want a real long liturgy, go for the Easter.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
It
it's
is-
the same for us, I guess, right?
Oh, they put us to shame.
Did they do a real vigil where like it's actually all through the night until the
Yeah,
morning?
it's something ridiculous like that, and you should look into it. And I've been to divine liturgies; they're utterly beautiful, but they're not that's not what I'm called to out of my subjective experience. I'm called to the Roman rite, and this actually leads to other things. There's this thing called the Neo-Catechumenal Way, right? They have their own liturgy, which is very, very
Weird.
Yeah, weird because it is weird to us because it's not part of our experience that has been given approval by Rome. And everything we think about reverence is kind of thrown out the window, right? Because they sit at a table instead of an altar. They have a large piece of bread. There's no actual homily. It's a whole bunch of people who get up and talk during the homily period, including the priest, so that they're all co-equal. Yeah, exactly. You could say that,
Yeah,
right?
it's
But
It sounds a little crazy.
whether Rome in her wisdom, and the church in her wisdom allows this in 100 years, I don't know, right? I can't see that far in
Right.
ahead. But the principle of allowing a person to have the freedom to express their love for God through prayer moved Pope Benedict. Was it Pope Benedict or St. John Paul II?
Are you referring to Summorum Pontificum?
No, well, Summorum Pontificum is
Okay.
where I was going to actually go, right? But for the Neo-Catechumenal Way, he
Oh yeah, it
allowed
was
it.
John Paul II, I think.
Yeah, who allowed this liturgy. But it's also like you have people who are very, very attached to what we call the extraordinary form, the Tridentine rite, whatever it is. Pope Benedict saw, because people have a right to their spirituality, that allowing the extraordinary form was actually a pathway for people to connect to God, right? We set aside the ecclesiological argument that Pope Francis made, which is we can talk an hour on that. But It's the realization that you are capable of praying to God because he made you to be subjective, and that subjectivity can actually touch the objective, if that makes any sense.
For someone who is struggling in their prayer life, like struggling to figure out what works for them, what do you advise them?
So it depends on why they're struggling. So typically when someone says, I'm having a problem to pray, the first question I ask is, have you been to confession?
Nice.
Right? No, seriously.
True. It's true.
Because prayer, and you didn't want to talk about the 4 types of prayer, right?
No,
right?
We've
we
talked
about it so much.
but-
I don't like talking about prayer that much, right? I prefer
People love it when we talk about prayer, but we always talk about worship, thanksgiving, or adoration, thanksgiving, intercession, and petition.
And I completely forgot where we were going.
You said you tell them to go to confession.
Tell them to go to confession. If you want to be able to do those 4 things, you actually have to have a union with God. And if you have a separation, it shouldn't be a surprise that you can't have a union with God, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing. I mean, this applies to so many things when it comes to confession. Like when someone thinks that their demons are in their house, hey, have you been to confession? You know how many times a confession has cleared it up. I don't even have to bless the home. A confession clears it up. After that, I actually ask them to actually find a spiritual director.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
this is a
I know.
deviation from what Father Tim has said. He's said, wait, like last season you said you don't need a spiritual director unless you're a religious person.
Well, I think
that is what was said.
working among young Catholics, I found that it's like the hip thing to do is to have a spiritual director. And it's like, why do you have a spiritual director? And they're like, because,
St. Therese
everybody
had
else
one.
everybody else does. I think I don't know that a layperson needs a spiritual director like on a regular basis, but if they're struggling, someone to help them to kind of steer them back. But then, okay, we've steered you back. Now let's set you free.
Yeah, a good spiritual director, especially like somebody who doesn't have prayer, will either say, hey, I am not the right person for you. Let me lead you to other spiritualities or different approaches so that I can help you find how you can find your connection to God. And also, hey, I don't have a lot of time and you're at a level where you need to be doing the work. And there will be a time in your future where you'll need a spiritual director again, right? And not everybody can be a spiritual director. Not every priest can be a spiritual director, right? So I'll be honest, I have not been trained to be a spiritual director. I have experience in the spiritual life. But if you get to a point, I'll be like, hey, let me find you somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to this particular problem, right? I don't know. Do you do spiritual direction?
I'll meet with somebody and kind of try to discern with them where they are, but I won't necessarily meet with them on a regular basis. But yeah, I'll definitely point them to someone. And it may be someone who is not trained in spiritual direction either. I might say, hey, you know what? You're a young mom with kids and you're struggling in your prayer life with this. I got this friend. Her name is Nicole. Maybe you could talk to her.
Don't talk to Nicole.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, because you can share your experience.
Yeah.
Nicole needs a spiritual director. Nicole doesn't need to be
but
doing
even people who need spiritual direction can direct. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it about boundaries and the law and all of that stuff. But we recognize the limitations of our experience. We can give generalities. And the thing I would say also is that a confessor should not be your spiritual director, right? And there's things about the internal and external form. One of the things that gets on my nerves, and we're going to talk about confessions way in the future, I think, is somebody who comes into the confessional asking for spiritual direction. And it's like, you don't understand. I'm bound by the seal of the confessional, right? I can't talk to you about this stuff because I can't discern what you've told me outside of the confessional and in the confessional.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And believe it or not, the penalties are very, very harsh if you break the seal. So I like to keep the delineation. That's why when someone says, hey, I have a question, talk to me out of the confessional, if that makes sense. The next thing is to realize that even though spirituality is subjective, we are called to participate in an objective reality in prayer, right? So, and you made the distinction before, right? I may be like a big charismatic guy and I have the music and I'm speaking in tongues and healing people with my hands. But when you go to Mass, hey, that music is actually not allowed in Mass, or it's very, very not recommended in Mass, right? Your postures are regulated in Mass, right? That doesn't mean you are not participating in the divine because of your subjective reality. Rather, you are giving yourself to the greater good, and it's the common subjectivity that is of greater issue during the Mass, if that makes sense, or the divine liturgy, or whatever it is that you're in. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it does. There's a aspect of obedience
Yeah.
that we have to.
Yeah, because the Mass is the church's prayer, and it's the highest form of prayer, and so the church says this is how we do the Mass.
Yeah.
There's room for options, but there's also a recommendation. Like Gregorian chant holds pride of place before any other type of music.
Yep. And the language, Latin, the ordinary of the Latin and the ordinary should be at pride of place. Drums are actually, I don't think, even permitted.
Aren't they? Yeah, explicitly not.
No, there's no explicit prohibition that I've seen anyway. But if
what about a timpani? Do you consider a timpani to be drums?
I would say a timpani doesn't even belong. As
What about
beautiful
cymbals?
as cymbals.
I think every Mass should have a violin, personally.
Well, so when I was in the seminary, I actually played violin for the Mass.
Oh.
And I honestly think the violin doesn't have a place.
Really?
Yeah. Now, so here's the thing. Gregorian chant is very hard.
Yes.
And it's very precise.
Yes.
And so I really believe if you can't do it well, go to the next step down, right? Which is the organ, right?
Okay.
And then the next step down from that is the piano, which is a percussive instrument.
I don't know if if it really gives a specific gradation beyond the organ.
Beyond the organ, yeah.
Yeah, the piano is a percussive instrument, so that's what most parishes use is the piano.
Yeah. You have to learn to delineate that. I'm a big fan of the extraordinary form because during the prayer, you were able to bring your subjective prayer life into the objective reality of the Mass, right? Everything was done sotto voce in silent voice. So while the priest was praying up there, you were bringing your subjective prayer into the reality. But there's a downside to that. I mean, if you read Sacra Sanctum Concilium, it needs to be an active will of the whole congregation. As it says, we are the subject of the prayer. We are all the ones doing the prayer. We're the subject of the sacrifice. It's not just the priest. It's everybody offering the sacrifice of the Mass, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was one of the criticisms of the old Mass was that, people didn't know what was going on. They weren't paying attention because they couldn't hear the priest. And so they would just do private devotions. They'd pray the rosary. I don't know. I think that might be a bit of a mischaracterization. But certainly with Pope Benedict opening the celebration of the extraordinary form to all priests, that I think, especially among young people, gave an opportunity for people to see the beauty in it and to actually recognize, okay, I know how to participate at Mass, and so I'm going to be more involved in it and knowing what's going on, following along in a missal. But as Father Starr mentioned, we don't need to get into the ordinary form versus extraordinary form conversation.
And I don't think it would be helpful.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah. And obviously now we're under Traditione Custodes, and so the extraordinary form is much more regulated and limited. But certainly we can recognize the fruits of it. What Pope Benedict XVI wanted and that he mentioned in Summorum Pontificum was mutual enrichment between the two forms. And I think certainly the extraordinary form enriches the ordinary form by reminding us that the Mass is the Church's prayer, by reminding us of the need for silence, contemplation. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay, great. Any recommendations for prayer for somebody who has a busy life? I feel like I know what you're going to say, but.
So it's interesting because I have not been able to pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament for the 8 years of my priesthood.
Really?
Because every time I go in front of the Blessed Sacrament to pray, somebody comes up because they want something, right? And it's this idea that what they have to say is more important than the conversation I'm having with the Lord, right? And I want to transfer that to our daily living. There is nothing more important than your conversation with the Lord. And everything else is just an excuse. Father Tim gave a homily one time, and I wasn't exactly honest with him. We had a conversation. We were staying up till 1:30 in the morning, right? And we've done that a couple times. We get into conversation and we blink and the time's gone and it's been really, really good. He gets up. What time did you get up?
Well, I had confessions probably at 8:30.
Yeah, was it a Thursday night?
I think so, yeah. So I had
So-
confessions at 8:30.
You probably got up at 8:26.
No, I got up at
8:25.
like 8:10 or 15.
Oh, look at you. But anyway.
And no, he comes out and I'm already out on the back porch, right? It's my day off. Like, what are you doing getting up after? And I was like, no, the time in the morning is so important. That's the time I spend with the Lord. And if that means getting up where I don't feel like it, it's gotten to the point that I can't even imagine not getting up. I have bad days if I wake up late. I woke up at 9 p.m. one day while I was here. And I was
9 p.m.?
9 a.m. 9 a.m. If you don't recognize that your conversation is more important than any other excuse you have. Now, I'm setting aside certain emergencies, right? If you're praying and your kids get quiet, you better go check on what your kids are doing, right? We get emergency calls while we pray. We better get up and go and help, right? Now, I mean, the opposite side is also true. You can't use prayer as an excuse not to do what you're supposed to do, right? I think it was Mother Teresa of Calcutta. There was one of her sisters was staying in the Blessed Sacrament because she thought there was nothing more important. She made her leave, right? No, right now you need to go help the poor or whatever it is you're doing. But you need to recognize that everything that you've planned in your day should be resolving around the reality of your prayer and not the other way around, right? And it's hard. It takes a lot of effort. It's agonizing, but it is actually a reality.
Yeah, and what did Jesus do every time he needed to pray? He went off by himself.
Yes.
He even got away from his disciples.
Yes.
And then, of course, they'd find him and, there's some sort of emergency. And
Yeah.
okay, all right, I'll heal this paralyzed person.
That's one of the reasons I think he created the storms.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get to him. He got an extra moment of, and then walked on the water to get back to them. Yeah. So, yeah, your prayer to God is a part of your experience with other people, if that makes sense. And if you divorce them, you've totally missed the point of everything I've just been saying.
So you would say that if you don't carve time out in your day to pray, that's like you're not living correctly.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Now, there's gradations, right? So if you're living such a busy life and you're trying to figure out how to make it work, you're going to fail a lot.
Right.
You're going to balk, you're going to scream, you're going to curse my name, you're going to write me emails about how I don't understand true living, et cetera, right? But it's the temptation that even priests have to face. I mean, all the time, right? Forgive me for talking about myself. Like, I'm a full-time priest here. I'm a full-time student, and I work at the tribunal. And I could easily make the excuse, hey, I have a 15-hour day today. I don't have time for prayer. No, the answer is, okay, now I have a 16-hour day today.
Don't you say Mass every day as part of your priesthood?
So it used to be required, right?
Is it not anymore?
It's not required anymore because the Code of Canon Law under the 1983 code really desired to invite the freedom of the person, to have freedom to choose God. When you have freedom, the act of love and the act of obedience is more powerful, right? Okay. Now, of course, you have the risk of them turning away, right? But it becomes a greater act. So we're highly encouraged to celebrate Mass every day, but it's not actually a requirement anymore. And I'll be honest, I'm not one of those priests that has gone every day without celebrating Mass, right? So sometimes I wake up and I feel really, really, really cruddy and I'm not all there. And the next thing I know, I go to bed, I wake up the next morning, I didn't celebrate Mass yesterday. And it's just, sometimes that happens. It's very rare, I think. Although since I've gotten here, I've been trying to get my altar set up in the rectory.
Yeah, I typically don't say Mass on my day off, which I probably should.
Yeah,
I know.
Isn't it? I mean, you guys say that Mass is the highest form of prayer.
Yep.
So wouldn't it just be easier to just say Mass?
Yeah, but
not
believe it or not, priests also suffer from the human condition.
Yeah.
And I'm just lazy, which is bad. I know that. Yeah, I should. And thanks, Nicole.
So like a good Samaritan, I had one day off where I didn't have a public Mass. I would celebrate Mass in private, right? And that's how I always used to do it until I got here. And we'll just say it's a matter of psychology. I have to get into a routine. So it's something I'm fighting with. And Father Tim knows that once I get into a routine, it works, right? So it's just something I recognize that there's a deficiency in my prayer life right now. I recognize that I'm not choosing to be connected to the Father as much as I should be right now. So I'm working to rectify it.
Perfect. How do we do that, Father Star? Is it just trying to show up every day?
No, that's a part of it, I think. I don't know. That doesn't seem...
Well, St. Paul says the spirit's willing, but the flesh is weak.
Yeah.
So part of it is just you have to force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You know that it's good. You just have to force yourself. Why do I do the things that I know are bad and I don't do the things that I know are good? Also, to paraphrase St. Paul.
Yeah, it's like doing a podcast. Also, what I said about a spiritual director, somebody who can speak to your subjectivity, who can understand the reasons that you're struggling, who can give you advice, right? A lot of times it's building virtue in other areas that you're weak in. Other times it's a change of mental states. It can be anything, right? But yeah, it's a fight. It's a true fight. If you loved the Lord enough, if I loved the Lord enough, I would never miss a day without Mass. So the fact that I miss Mass on a day shows that I don't love the Lord enough. It is an act of, it's a condemnatory reality, but it's also an invitation to discover, hey, I can love the Lord more.
That is the exact phrase that I've been saying to myself lately. It's like, if I loved the Lord enough, showing up in prayer every day wouldn't be hard. Not that it wouldn't be hard, but that I would do it. Because if I'm going to spend eternity with this man, shouldn't I want to have the relationship with him now? But I don't know. It's the actual, then you have to show up. Then you have to.
I mean, what
pray.
is eternity with God but everlasting prayer? Right? And so if you're not living a life where you are familiar with what it means to be praying and connected to the Father through prayer, when you come face to face with him, it'll be an alien to your very nature reality. It may just be that you have to go to purgatory and you have some angel over you teaching you how to pray. But yeah, if you're not living prayer, the beatific vision will just be alien.
I think it was I found, I think it was a gospel, I don't know if it was a Sunday gospel. It might have been a daily, one of the daily mass ones, but it was, where they knock on the door and the master answers and he says, when did I don't know you, leave me. And I was like, oh no, that's going to be me. They're like, but we ate what you fed us and we were there. And he says, but I don't know who you are because sure, you showed up to mass, but you didn't come and get to know me in prayer. So
you showed up to Mass, you did all these good works, you proclaimed my name, but it wasn't enough for you to be unified to me.
Yes. Yeah. That's what's getting me to pray lately. Okay. Any other thoughts before we jump into our next segment?
No, I think it's really interesting what you just said, right? Your fear of punishment is what's moving you to prayer. And that's actually sufficient to move you. Right?
Yeah, it's the first. I know it's the first step. It's first I will be afraid of, going to hell, of the Lord not knowing me. And then once that that's the imperfect desire. And then eventually I can get to the point where it's, no, I love you, Lord, and I want to be here with you. And that's the reason I'm showing up.
And that's why I love parents with their kids. And I will mention this in homilies. I'll mention it for the rest of my life. A parent, when your child is sick or in duress at night and you're very tired, you've had a 15, 16-hour day and you have to get up, right? Do you even hesitate? I mean, it hurts. You're fighting, you're complaining, but do you hesitate to get to your child?
I'll be honest. In the beginning, I did.
Yeah.
But now I don't.
Yeah. What do you think the moving force is?
Love.
Yeah. It's that, right? That word that we don't have a definition for.
Right.
So when I'm struggling with something, I look at parents. Okay, how do they take care of their kids?
Oof, that's such a good thought. You just show up sometimes because you have to, and you're like, I don't want to feed you breakfast right now, and that sounds terrible. But when you've made oatmeal and you've made eggs, and you're thinking, what do I feed you today? And they're toddlers and they don't want anything you're offering. You're like, I still have to. I'm going to do it. But then there's some days where it's like, oh, I would love to like do whatever it is for you.
And just to end with this, which of those examples is a greater act of love?
Probably when it's hard.
When it's hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think God gives us those moments to allow us to love him more than what we thought was previously possible. Hence why I'm at a podcast.
It's for a very specific segment called Quick Q&A. So on these little podcasts, I call them little because we don't have a guest speaker to add a fourth voice to the mix. But I'd like to incorporate a little quick Q&A, bring it back since Father Tim loves it so much. But the point of this, Father Star, since you are new to quick Q&A, is that you answer quickly.
And
preferably
we never do.
In a minute. But we try. So first question I have is from over the summer. Someone asked, how do you feel about celebrating Mass at Orientum?
These are supposed to be quick.
Yeah, that's not a quick.
And is it feel or think?
Feel.
So
Feel. Yeah, feeling is quicker than thinking.
So a few things just to start. At Orientum, meaning facing to the east.
Facing the tabernacle, I think, right?
Well, it literally means
Yeah, it means
I
facing
know
the
it
east.
means facing the east.
Yeah.
Like at St. Peter's Basilica, facing the east is standing on the other side of the altar looking at the people, and it always has been. But for a long time, it was the posture at Mass. It was allowed to facing the people versus populum was allowed after the Second Vatican Council. But that's not to say that ad Orientum isn't allowed. Pope Leo, in fact, when he was at Castel Gandolfo, you can see videos of him celebrating Mass ad Orientum. For me, what I like about it is that I'm not distracted. I get super distracted at Mass, and it reminds me, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not praying like I should. That's part of the reason why the crucifix and the candles are on the altar, because it gives me the cross to look at. Reminds me that the holy sacrifice of the Mass is just that. It's a sacrifice offered to the Father. And so it kind of redirects us vertical. So personally, I find it personally edifying. It's not the current norm. So, we don't actually do that here. Again, if I'm saying a private Mass, then in the chapel, then that's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, the liturgy wars, which is like the church's version of the culture wars, some of these things are a little touchy. So I'm trying to be objective on it.
But in general, you feel positively about it.
Oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, in general, I feel positive about celebrating Mass.
Father Star, your thoughts? How do you feel about it?
We're actually very similar when it comes to how we look at liturgy. The few times that I've gotten to celebrate Mass towards the East, it's been a greater participation in the divine for myself, recognizing what he was saying, right? For me, subjectively, it works, but the people behind me don't understand it and they feel separated, and there's a lot of work for that. It's theologically, historically, in the deposit of faith, it has a lot of significant meaning. I mean, ad Orientum goes back to even Jewish theology in the temple, and the idea of the rising sun being where the resurrected Lord is. Like when you were getting baptized, while you would face the east during the exorcisms before baptism, there's a whole significant understanding of you moving towards the new creation. We're in diaspora, we're desiring to reach the promised land, and so we're all in journey together. But at the end of the day, it's not a battle I fight, because I decide that, or choose to bear a cross for the people of God. So I prefer ad Orientum, but for me, it's a greater act of love right now to do it versus populum, against the people, right?
I don't celebrate Mass, so I have no thoughts other than I don't care either way. I kind of like it as long as I don't love necessarily the tradition, the extraordinary form, because I can't hear what's going on. But I don't mind if a priest celebrates the Norvis Ordo ad Orientum.
The people have to know what's going on. They have to understand why.
Yeah.
And you can't just kind of like dump it on them, which unfortunately some priests have done. And then that leads to, more confusion. And then, people say, no, you can't do it. So.
And it does go back to the right for spirituality.
Right.
So this isn't a requirement of the liturgical law. So a pastor who imposes it is actually, in a way, working against the freedom of the people when he should be teaching and inviting and engaging, right? How do people actively participate in a mass that's celebrated at orientum? I think it's absolutely possible, but if you don't teach them how to do it, I mean, why would you expect any differently?
Father Gorev used to do it back in Athens when I was in college. All right, next question. Does a priest get tired of hearing confessions?
Is this like tired of like being repulsed by, like you don't want to do it anymore?
Could you sit in there for hours and hours listening to confession?
I've done it before.
Yeah.
Yes. You don't get tired of it?
Tired of it, like sick of it, or tired like you get? So I never get sick of confessions. I might get sick of a particular confession, right?
By like one person.
By one person. And it's usually someone who
doesn't understand how to go to confession.
Doesn't receive correction, doesn't understand what you're trying. But those are actually very, very rare. Very rare. Even people that you would think were annoying, sometimes you receive the grace to actually be present and listen. But being tired, I get tired about 1 hour in. I'm exhausted about 1 hour.
Sleepy.
Yeah, fatigued.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also recognize that as a priest, I'm the only one that can do this. And this is a very important thing. So that's why I make it a priority that we have lots of times and opportunities for confession. And I encourage people to go to confession regularly, which, that can be hard on me because it means we've got, 3 or 4 hours of confession a week, which really probably isn't enough. Right?
It's really not.
I would say no.
Yeah, we've got Saturday evening, we've got Thursday evening, so that's 2 hours. And then
we have the 30 minutes
Monday
on Monday and 30 minutes on Friday.
So 3 hours.
Funny story about that. Father Michael came over and we were all going to have dinner and I had the confessions and Father Tim goes, you know what? It's only going to be like 30 minutes. Just go and hear confessions. It'll be fine. 45 minutes in, I just send them ... right? Because what was it? Like an hour and 15 minutes worth of confessions?
But and that always happens when you think, it's only going to take 15 minutes.
So even though I was really excited about this food, I was actually in a good mood. I was in a good mood because I just got to hear an hour and 15 worth of confessions. I was exhausted.
I wish we could have confession Wednesday nights, but alas.
Wednesday nights are
busy
like
time.
Our busiest night.
So what a perfect time.
I know.
All these people in the church, and they would just be like, oh, I'm going to Credo. I'm going to Bible study. I could just pop in for confession.
Yeah. And it's an interesting reality. There's so many goods that the people need that butt up against the limitation of the priesthood or the priests themselves, right? I would love to hear confessions in between masses on Sunday, but...
Oh my gosh, that is my dream.
But I'm honestly, you can ask him after Mass, I'm so
tired.
So exhausted.
Sunday's a busy day, but...
that's why I was actually very happy to come here because he had so many times for confessions, so...
Last question, since these are so rapid.
Are these 3 minutes each? Is that how we're
That's
supposed to do
happening.
it? Okay.
All right. So maybe I should just limit you to a couple of sentences, but got a couple questions. I'm going to kind of combine them all into one. What do you think about Eucharist in the hand / what are your thoughts on reverence during Mass? Because I think they kind of go together.
Well, receiving Holy Communion in the hand is an option that is allowed by the Church. Again, to Father's point of everyone has a right to their spirituality. You can't say, well, you can't do that. By the same logic, you can't say, well, if somebody wants to receive communion kneeling or on the tongue, you can't say no. So there you go.
I had a priest once tell me I couldn't receive kneeling. He pulled me up in the middle of Mass.
That's unfortunate.
Not allowed,
because
right?
it's not allowed.
So in the old translation of the General Instruction of the Roman Missal, there used to be an instruction that if someone knelt and wanted to receive on the tongue, you were to give it to them and then pull them aside after Mass and instruct them why they should be receiving in the hand.
Oh, wow.
It's a bad paraphrase.
Or standing,
right. So, but
it also said, but the priest can't refuse somebody communion who desires it that way. And then they changed the translation because it wasn't even in the Latin. So
interesting.
That's because the United States is unique in that regard. We have particular law that allows. It's not a universal law per se to receive in the hand.
Do you all have any thoughts about receiving in the hand specifically when you're sick? Do you as a priest care?
No, I would rather get sick and serve your devotion. Now, if I'm sick communion will never get you sick. The Eucharist will never get you sick.
Right.
Me sticking my fingers in your mouth, that
Right.
might get you sick.
Yes.
So if I'm sick, I usually get an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion to take my place. I think this is why they were created, because I'm not capable of giving communion. But if you're sick and you come up and you want to receive on the tongue, as long as you don't sneeze on my hand or cough on my hand, because now I have to go purify my fingers and wash my hand to give.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it.
That's good to know. I've always tried to, I'm like, I feel bad if
But that being said, if you are sick, you should not
you
be
should
coming,
be bad.
right? Because you
What our opinions are don't really
don't matter.
but what the church allows. So
And we approach it, what is it, a religious assent of the will? We approach it with the reverence that's due because it comes from obedience, not only to our bishop, to the Holy Father, but our act of obedience, I think, is a reflection of Christ's obedience to God, to the church, or to God, right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
So,
and in reverence, we want to do everything that we can to limit profanation of the sacred species. So, if you receive communion in the hand, you notice that there's particles, lick your hand.
lick your hand or take
yeah.
a finger and collect it.
Collect them.
And be careful not to drop anything.
Don't walk away until you receive in front of
the priest.
the priest or the extraordinary minister. Yeah, and just take your time, be reverent, and it'll also make our lives a little easier. I'm not supposed to talk.
You're not supposed to talk during that part. It's time for the one thing. Okay, who wants to go first today?
You know what? I'll go first. My one thing is a thing called chess.com.
Chess.com.
Right? You asked me, am I any good at chess? Do I have a rating? I'm actually terrible at chess. I play a lot, but I use this, and it has a lot of tools to help me get better at playing chess. And yeah, that's what I'm going to leave it at.
Chess.com.
Chess.com.
Is it free?
It can be free, yes.
Okay, great. My one thing this week is Crane's Coffee. It's a new coffee shop that opened in downtown Ackworth. They specialize in Cuban coffee, and it is really, really good. 10 out of 10 recommend. Just don't go on a Saturday morning. They have not figured out that rush yet. So it took us like 18 minutes to get our coffee. But otherwise, really, really like what they're doing. They close on Sunday because they are good people. So we love that.
Awesome. Father Tim.
So my one thing is a card game called Threes. Father Paul taught it to me. I call it Canadian Rummy because his mom and his siblings played it together. I think that there's a game called 5 Crowns that you can buy that is...
Oh, is that Threes?
Like it, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Basically, the wild changes every hand, and it's the wild is the number of the cards that are in your hand, and you have to make either suited runs or 3 of a kind at least, and it's just a lot of fun.
5 Crowns is
so
fun.
Yeah, those of you that came on the trip with me, we played it.
Do you need a specific deck or no?
No, you can use a regular deck. For like up to 3 people, it gets a little dicey toward the end. Or if it's more than 3 people, then you use 2 decks, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Just play 5 Crowns. It's better.
Well, but the nice thing about these games is you don't have to have the specialized deck. You can just, it's like playing Crazy Eights instead of Uno.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks for sharing that. That will be linked in the show notes. If you didn't know, we have an Instagram now. So go follow it and you can get little previews of who's going to come on the podcast.
Also, the only reason that I have an Instagram is so that I can see that account. So quit trying to follow me. I don't even know what that means. Okay? I'm a boomer. I do the Facebooks.
Stop it.
That's it.
You always make this joke. Our podcast specific Instagram is at the Truth Unplugged podcast. So go follow it. Maybe you'll see me get to do or get Father Star to do something ridiculous as part of the promo. You'll never know. You got to go fight. It's hard enough to get him to talk.
You're definitely going to have to bribe me with something very outstanding.
But we appreciate you guys tuning in for this new season. And we would love to feature some of your questions on some of our quick Q&A sections. So, send us some questions that can be answered in a minute.
Yep. Yeah, and next week's, we're going to have a special guest. I'm going to bring Frank the cat.
Oh,
he's going to be on the podcast.
Oh, is that what we're calling our special guest?
No, I'm going to bring Frank. I'm going to set him down in front of the microphone, and he's just going to meow incessantly.
And tune in next week because we've got a really good guest that we all love. So
again, guys, make sure you follow us on Instagram, subscribe, share The Truth Unplugged with your friends.
And I still don't know why you would do it. But
if you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review. And until next time, God bless you.
Bye.
Do you know we have 5 stars on across all of our listening platforms?
That doesn't surprise me.
That'll probably change.
Thanks for listening.
Adios.